Father Gilbert, your past poetry was not at all religious, but in your latest book, Someone, the shift to religious poetry is very clear. What led to this change?
It is just a process, so there is no change. It is just a process. And you start when you're younger, you start writing about the rain in May. You start writing about your mother. You start writing about your girlfriends. You start writing about your friends. You start writing about your heartaches. You start writing about your joys in a pure lyrical. And then as you grow older, you try to think about other things, you try to philosophize, you try to fantasize more, and you try to think about God when you reach my age. And you think about the being that you cannot see. What is your relationship with that being? And they call that religion, the bridge between this being and man. So I never intended to be a religious poet. As far as I'm concerned, I'm just a poet. I write poetry, no more and no less. As for the classification, it belongs to the province of the critics to do it. But for me, I just think that I write poetry. And maybe because of the years that I have accumulated, I have to use the vocabulary of the religious in describing things. Because I talk with friars, I live with friars. That is what we call our hidden galaxy.
Can you describe the creative process when you sit down to write poetry?
Oh, when I sit down to write poetry, there are times when I am as when I wrote the book Getso, as if I were dreaming, and I heard patterns. I saw some lines, and then I wake up. Oh my goodness, this is poetry. So in the middle of the night, and sometimes at 2 o'clock, even if it is winter, in the dead of winter, I have to do it. Because when the creative process comes, you are not aware of yourself. They call that demon. Not demon, but demon, the Greeks. And that you are possessed by that. If you are not possessed by that kind of spirit, you cannot write. It's impossible. No matter what, they give you all the opportunity to do it, but you simply cannot. And then if you are seized with this creativity, it just comes and you are amazed and overwhelmed that you have written that kind of line.
Who are your favorite poets and why?
I must confess that my favorite poet is Gerard Manley Hopkins. Not because he is a Jesuit, not because the Pope is a Jesuit, but I have always admired him because he died alone. And Teilhard de Chardin, whom they want to present as a philosopher or theologian, for me he was a poet. So I like the spirit of freedom, of trying to discern things in a possible scientific manner, not in superstitious beliefs, but according to the rule of sanity, common sense. Aside from Teilhard de Chardin, aside from Gerard Manley Hopkins, I like Robert Burns, because when I was younger and I was a student, I used to write love poems. And for me, Robert Burns is a very good poet. And the one who died in New York, he was a poet who came here. He was not known for winning the Nobel Prize or something like that, but he is a very good poet. He was a very good poet. The one, Dylan Thomas. And Wallace Stevens also is a very good poet for me.
What are you reading right now?
I read everything. My favorite reading matter is still the Bible, the King James Version. Not the. You may not necessarily agree with what is there, but the English of King James Version of the Bible cannot be surpassed. The rest of the Bibles, they are just pretenders in matters of literature. So when I do my quotations, I quote from the King James Version, which I read at the age of 8, because as you know, I have to tell you that I was before with a family that was deeply Protestant. I grew up with my grandparents, who were the products of the Thomasites in the Philippines. The first one of those who learned English. And so there were a lot of missionaries staying in their house from America. And so they were always reading the Bible. Every Sunday there was a Sunday school. And until now, I am still moved by the preachers, the Protestant preachers, the pastors, because they really preach very well. You have to give them that credit. And they take their job very seriously. My goodness, they are really very good. So the Bible is my favorite reading matter until now.
And what is your next poetry project?
Who knows? Nobody knows. Because if it comes so easily, it will come so easily. So if I write a book of poetry, at least it should be 100 poems. But now I am older, and so I write on a theme. I cannot just pick up lines here and there. There is always something to develop. So one poem after another. So there is some sort of the parts contributing into a whole. And so I am working on another project, and I'm going back to the topic of anti-clericalism. Clericalism, that is the bane of the ages. For 200 years, we have not been really moving forward because of politics inside the church. As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be. I hope it will end with Pope Francis, but I'm going to dwell on that because so many people are suffering. Maybe not only with the males, with the priests, but maybe more with the nuns, with the women. I'm not against women, but if we do not behave properly, if we are not holy, we are no better than pirates.